Future Justice by Isaac Petrov. Chapter 1. The Inheritance of Lies.
In Edinburgh, the rain had always felt like truth, constant, cold, impossible to escape. For Ethan MacGregor, 26 years old and already obsessed with secrets the world tried to bury, the rain was a reminder of where it began. His father had died in a car crash when Ethan was just 13. Officially, it was an accident on the A9. Unofficially, Ethan had always known better. His father, Robert MacGregor, was a journalist, a stubborn man who pursued corruption in high places. The week before his death, he had been investigating NATO's involvement in secret rendition flights through Scotland. Ethan remembered the way his mother's face had gone pale when she saw the police report. Pages missing, details vague, witnesses unnamed. That was the day Ethan's obsession was born. The day he promised himself that one day he would find a way to prove what had really happened, not just to his father, but to history itself.
All lies leave fingerprints, his father had once told him. The trick is finding the paper they smudged.
Years later, in the basement of a rented flat off Leith Walk, Ethan's fingers trembled over the glowing console of his machine. It had taken him 3 years of obsession, stolen parts from university labs, money borrowed under false names. What he had built was not meant to exist, a lens into the past, a way to see history unfold in real time.
Just one more calibration, Ethan murmured, adjusting the dials.
The screens flickered. Ghostly static gave way to color, sound, motion. Suddenly the basement was alive with the past. Motorcades, protests, flashes of history replayed without commentary, without spin, raw truth. At the top of the basement stairs, Lily Sinclair hovered, her blonde hair haloed in the dim light. She had been Ethan's closest friend since school. Calm where he was obsessive, rational where he was reckless.
Ethan, you've been at this for hours. Please tell me this isn't going to blow up in our faces. It won't blow up. It's going to change everything.
She descended, her arms folded, her eyes scanning the wires and humming circuits. Ethan's passion both frightened and fascinated her.
Change what? The world doesn't want the truth. It wants stories it can swallow. Then I'll choke them with proof.
He pressed the switch, the screen sharpened, a grainy street in Dallas, 1963, John F. Kennedy smiling, waving. Then chaos, shots, panic. The machine focused again, but not on the motorcade. It lingered on a dim hotel room days before the event, FBI men and mobsters hunched over maps, murmuring about parade routes and vantage points. Ethan's stomach lurched.
Oh my God, Lily, do you see this?
He recorded the feed, compressing it into a file, uploading it to the crude site he had built, futurejustice.net. Anonymous, simple, just a banner, history without lies. Within an hour, the footage was shared to 1,000 forums. Within 6, it was trending worldwide. By dawn, government press offices across Washington and London had issued statements: deepfake, malicious fabrication, foreign interference. But people had seen it. They had seen the men in the hotel room. They had seen the maps. They had recognized faces.
You've started something, Ethan. Something you can't stop.
And outside, as the Edinburgh rain lashed harder, Ethan heard sirens. Not distant ones, nearby, growing closer. His heart thundered. For the first time, he realized the truth wasn't just dangerous, it was lethal. Chapter 2, The First Firestorm. The sirens didn't sound like Edinburgh's usual lullaby. They cut through the rain with surgical intent. Closer, nearer, hunting. Ethan killed the main breaker in the basement, shouldered a backpack already packed for this exact moment, and yanked the drive from the recording rig. The room fell to a heartbeat hush, fans winding down, screens surrendering to black.
Lily, coat, phone off, we go now. I'm already there, back stairwell. I wiped the last 10 minutes of the door cam.
They moved like muscle memory through the narrow corridor behind the lab, up the iron steps into the alley that linked Leith Walk to a quieter lane. Rain hammered the bins and slicked the cobbles to glass. The blue strobes washed the far end of the street. The sirens choked off. Doors opened. Boots hit water.
Ethan, look.
2 unmarked SUVs idled nose to tail, no plates, 3 men each, not uniforms. City plainclothes with government posture. One scanned a tablet under his jacket, another touched his ear, listening to a voice that wasn't the rain.
Winds to Broughton Street, then cut through St. Mark's Close. Go.
They slipped sideways into the seam of the city, the medieval arteries that still remembered how to hide the living. Their breath fogged, feet slid, hands caught stone. Behind them, the building door side open and a flashlight beam combed the basement lab air, that wasn't there anymore. FutureJustice.net ignited. The JFK hotel room clip detonated across message boards and encrypted channels like magnesium. A throwaway subreddit with 800 followers ballooned to 500,000 in an afternoon. On Discord, a server called Cold Ink spawned 5 mirror links within an hour, then 15, then a hydra of 49. A German physics forum did a forensic breakdown of lens distortion and room acoustics. A Brazilian film editor matched a scar on a cheekbone to an archived personnel photo. Every deletion birthed a twin. Every twin had teeth.
Status, Ethan asked, as they took a breath under the dripping arch of a close. Primary host is rate limited, but the onion mirrors are fine. I seeded torrents from a library Wi-Fi 2 nights ago. The hashes are pinned.
The official responses sharpened. Statements were coordinated across agencies in a tone that was identical no matter the flag: malicious fabrication, synthetic media, threat vector. Anchors on 3 networks said deepfake like a new sacrament.
They're calling you a terrorist in comment sections and a saint in DMs. Congratulations, you're finally interesting. I wanted proof, not sainthood.
They didn't go home. They went to Lily's "if everything goes to hell" location, a storage unit near a tram depot, registered under an embarrassing fake band name Ethan had chosen at 2 a.m, Glacial Pigeons. In the corrugated dim, he unrolled a battered thermal mat, set the drive into a stripped-down laptop without a microphone, camera taped, radio disabled. The machine recognized the drive like a dog that had been waiting.
"We can stop, Lily. We can say it was a one-off. Live."
You built a lens into the past so you could watch the world lie and not do anything? That doesn't sound like you. And anyway, it's already too late. The video's out. The only way through is forward.
Ethan exhaled a surrender that was also a vow. He cued the next thread he'd been nursing quietly for months, not to indulge conspiracy, but to kill it properly with clarity. Paris, August 1997, Alma Tunnel. The official story was an old bruise. Cameras had malfunctioned. Witnesses contradicted one another. Photographers were convenient villains.
Paris, 2 days out, he said. Okay.
The feed formed a security office camera in a nearby hotel, not the tunnel. A map laid on a table, hands pointing, moving small tokens like chess. A man with a clipped accent saying, "You'll get the distraction you need. Avoid the bridge, the tunnel is cleaner." A second voice, and cameras? The first, "You'll be surprised how often they need maintenance." Another cut, a stairwell, a suited man on a phone. "No, I told you, it must look like a chase, not a box." A hand gesture, an open wallet flashed to a uniform. He didn't narrate. He didn't editorialize. He stitched timestamps. He stabilized frames. He masked faces only of civilians who were never supposed to be in any legend.
It doesn't say who ordered anything. It shows a pattern you don't get in an accident.
Upload number 2 went out with a label that was not a claim, just a fact. Paris, August 97. Previously unseen security feed, contextual fragments, no CGI, no synthesis. Hashes published. The mirrors took it and multiplied. A French minister called it vile, baseless. A retired cop went on a late-night stream and cried. A tabloid offered Ethan £500,000 to bring them the machine. A law firm in London filed an injunction against John Doe DBA Future Justice for gross intrusion.
They always say baseless when the base is showing, Lily murmured.
The message came through the contact form that nobody except trolls and bots used because real people were sensible enough not to write to the fire. Subject: not a fan, but I can help keep you alive. From MH.
Spam or trap. He knows which UK cloud node was cloned to run the bulk takedowns. That's not public.
Marcus Hale had been a name on Ethan's father's bookshelf. A spine with cigarette burns, rooms without windows, the kind of dog-eared that means a thing got carried through airports and interrogations. Later, Hale was the scandal. A story about rendition flights that went too hard, a source who later recanted under pressure, a career that imploded on cue. He vanished into a Substack. He learned to brew bitter coffee.
30 minutes, in the open, Waverly Concourse, no phones at the table. If he brings friends, then we've learned an answer we needed.
Waverly Station lifted and hummed, a steel cathedral for trains and rain. They took a corner table by a pillar with 3 decades of gum in its paint. Ethan laid a paperback on the table, a signal agreed by email, the spy who came in from the cold. It felt too on the nose and exactly right.
You look like your old man, Marcus said, sliding into the seat across from them without asking if it was free. His hair was gray in a way that had nothing to do with age. His eyes cataloged exits like a reflex. He set down a paper bag. "This is for you. New routers. Clean. Burn the old ones. And don't say thank you where a microphone can hear it." Why? Because the first thing they do is strangle your pipes. The second is smear you. The third is arrest you. You'll want to keep breathing until at least step 2. You think the footage is real? I think truth has a sound. Your clips sound like paperwork and boredom. That's how the real stuff sounds. If it was fake, you'd have made it more cinematic.
Ethan didn't smile. He didn't need to. He watched the corner where 2 men in Don't Notice Us raincoats were noticing everyone.
You won't win a war of posts. You win a war of infrastructure. Mirrors, redundancy, seating in places they can't subpoena without embarrassing themselves. I can introduce you to 3 admins who hate each other more than they'll ever hate you. That's how you get resilient. What's your price? You keep publishing, with timestamps, with hashes, with restraint. No wild claims, no anonymous voiceovers, no yellow arrows in the thumbnails. You let the video do the work, and you let the world indict itself.
They agreed without saying it. Upload number 3 was smaller, meaner, and closer to home. A cabinet meeting in London, 2003, rehearsing phrases about weapons of mass destruction, while a civil servant slid a memo across the table that said in plain language, confidence low. Nobody looked down. They practiced their solemn faces. Upload number 4, a prison black site in a not quite European country. A detainee swapped from one set of men in masks to another, both arguing loudly about paperwork because the microphones were off in the room. They would do the real thing.
I thought seeing it would make me feel better. It doesn't. It just makes me older. It makes me angrier. I don't know if that's useful.
The audience fractured into camps, but the fractures weren't equal. The graphs on Ethan's admin page showed a kind of belief that didn't require faith, only eyesight and patience. A Cambridge lab ran a public model on the compression artifacts and declared the videos consistent with analog capture. A Silicon Valley CEO tweeted a thread about synthetic misinformation and used a stock photo of a camera that hadn't been manufactured since 1994. The clip Ethan had been afraid to open, the one buried under innocuous file names and board labels, was a corridor in a Swiss hotel during a conference that had 1,000 cameras and somehow none in this wing. The year was 2014. The carpet was expensive. The walls were the color of rich men's restraint. He watched the first 5 seconds and stopped it with a hand that he didn't recognize as his own.
What is it? Not yet. We're not ready.
He made tea like doing something ordinary could domesticate history. It could not. The storage unit wasn't safe after 72 hours. A neighbor complained about late-night noise. A utility van parked too long across the lane. Marcus moved them to a disused print shop in Portobello that still smelled like toner and ink and debt. He taught them the old reporter tricks that felt like magic. Walk against the flow, use reflections, carry 2 hats.
You don't beat the state, Marcus said, laying out dumb phones like pilgrim offerings. You outlast it. Truth is anaerobic. It survives in the dark.
Upload number 5 was barely a minute long, and yet felt like a week. A committee room where a social network liaison explained, nudging to a group of men who pretended not to understand it, even as they grinned. "We don't tell them what to think," the liaison said. "We tell them what to think about. The algorithm is a tide. They think they're swimming." #storms bloomed. Advertisers threatened boycotts, then quietly bought more inventory, because attention is attention even if it is screaming.
They'll break us if you put out the Swiss clip now. They'll break us if I don't.
He queued the file. He named it nothing, 2/4 and C2 wing C.mov. He stared at the progress bar that didn't exist because Lily had disabled bars, which are a promise you can't make on the run. He didn't press upload. Not yet. He wrote a post instead, the first text he'd put on the site that wasn't a timestamp or a hash. "You've called the videos lies. You've called them synthetic. You've called me a terrorist. Here is my promise. I will not tell you what to believe. I will show you, patiently, verifiably, and you will decide if your memory of the world is a comfort or a cage. Tomorrow at 19 UTC, you will see what some of you already suspect. No effects, no cuts that obscure, no voice but the room's." He hit schedule. The site's clock ticked. Somewhere, men who never waited for anything were about to practice waiting. At 2 a.m, the print shop's back door sighed as if it were tired of the world. A red dot danced briefly on the wall and died. A shape crossed the frosted glass. Marcus didn't shout, he didn't whisper. He moved like someone who had been here before and had once not made it out.
Leave everything heavy, 2 bags now. Street or roof? Roof. Streets for people who like handcuffs.
They climbed into night air that smelled of salt and fear. The sea whispered beyond the terraces. Below, doors opened, and men in quiet boots flooded a room that contained nothing but the smell of ink and ghosts.
Tomorrow, Ethan said to the dark as if it could hear him. Tomorrow we light the match.
Lily squeezed his hand. She didn't say, "Be careful," because that's a prayer, and prayers bounce off steel. She said the only true thing left.
Then let's live until then.
The night took them in. The clock on the site kept counting down. Chapter 3, The Swiss Wing. The print shop was gone. Portobello was gone. So were 3 bags, 2 laptops, and the last shreds of normal life. What remained was Ethan's drive, Lily's resolve, and Marcus Hale's weary instinct for survival. They had slipped east toward the coast, riding buses until their change ran out, then walking the wet pavements until the sea air felt like safety. They ended in an abandoned seaside hostel where the windows were boarded and the only light came from a camping lantern balanced on a milk crate. The website clock ticked down, 19 hours, 43 minutes.
You've made yourself a fuse, Marcus muttered, cradling a chipped mug. That countdown? That's not for the public. That's for them. You've told every spook with a badge that they've got less than a day to stop you. Then they'll have to run faster, Lily said, because he's not backing out now. I'm not, Ethan confirmed. His voice had no tremor, only weight.
The hours crawled. The site's traffic ballooned beyond what Marcus had predicted. Mirrors spawned faster than takedowns. Telegram groups pulsed with anticipation. Even mainstream news anchors spoke in cautious tones about the hacker entity Future Justice. On the darknet, one forum user posted, "If this drops, governments fall. Mark the day." At 1859 UTC, Ethan's finger hovered over the key. He looked at Lily. Her hand found his. He pressed. The clip unfolded like a confession no one intended to hear. A corridor in a Swiss hotel, 2014. Carpets muffled the sound, but the walls caught every word. Putin sat with the patience of a wolf. Xi Jinping leaned forward, his tone cool, deliberate. Donald Trump, years before the White House, waved his hands with brash confidence. Around them sat 4 men whose faces were blurred, but whose silhouettes were unmistakable. Tech billionaires, rulers of networks, billions scrolled without thinking.
Ukraine is fragile, Putin said. Push it and it cracks. NATO will waste blood and treasure. Chaos there weakens Europe. We gain influence in the Pacific while they are distracted. And I'll ride the wave at home. America first, Europe second, you'll see. Our networks can flood their populations with any story you want. Division is scalable. Algorithms don't care who wins, only who clicks.
They laughed together, toasted glasses, spoke of carving the globe into zones like children dividing a cake. The video streamed uncut. Ethan had stripped nothing, added nothing, just angles, timestamps, room tone. The world filled in the rest. Within minutes, hashtags exploded. Swiss Wing, Future Justice, World for Sale. Newsrooms froze, anchors blinking at screens as producers shouted in their ears. Politicians tweeted denials before their aides had even watched the clip. Tech companies issued synchronized statements. Fabricated, malicious, dangerous. But the voices were clear. The faces were familiar. And people believed what they saw.
They can't bury this. They'll try, and when they fail, they'll come for you.
Ethan refreshed the dashboard. Mirrors doubled, tripled. Download torrents seeded from Sao Paulo, Lagos, Warsaw, Delhi. The clip was unkillable now. Like dandelion fluff caught on the wind, it would outlive every hand raised to swat it. But the price was written in the air. A helicopter passed low over the hostel, searchlight sweeping, lingering just too long.
They know where we are.
They killed the lantern, grabbed the bags, slipped into the salt-stung night. Sirens wailed inland, closing fast. Marcus guided them down a stairwell to the beach, where waves gnawed at the sand. The city lights burned behind them like accusation.
Follow the tide line. No footprints for them to track. Ethan, the world has seen it. Even if we die tonight, the truth doesn't. Then let's make sure we don't die tonight.
The 3 figures moved along the black shore, the storm above echoing the storm they had unleashed. Somewhere in the dark, governments recalculated. Armies of lawyers drafted statements, intelligence chiefs screamed into phones, and millions of ordinary people stared at their screens, wondering if history had always been this rotten. Ethan didn't wonder. He knew. And now the world did too. Chapter 4. Enemy of the State. The world did not sleep that night. Screens glowed in kitchens, bedrooms, train stations, bars. Everywhere people replayed the Swiss Wing clip. They slowed it down, lip-read it, matched it with official travel logs from 2014. The accents, the gestures, the body language, too specific to fake, too damning to dismiss. By dawn, protests erupted outside tech headquarters in San Francisco, London, Beijing. Crowds held signs. Your algorithm is our cage. Truth, not clicks. Future justice equals real justice. Governments reacted with synchronized fury.
The so-called future justice footage is fabricated disinformation designed to destabilize global order. This is the work of terrorists. They want to divide us. We will hunt them down. Security services in the United Kingdom confirm they are working with international partners to track the perpetrators.
Ethan MacGregor's name, leaked by anonymous sources, became a trending search before he had time to breathe. In the hostel's ruined backroom, Ethan watched his own face on a breaking news chyron. Scottish hacker behind viral disinformation hoax. His passport photo flashed beside words like extremist, traitor, threat actor.
They've burned me already. No, they've framed you. There's a difference. People can tell. Don't kid yourselves. Governments aren't in the business of asking. They'll squeeze until you're pulp. You've got 12 hours, maybe less, before boots kick the wrong door.
Marcus pulled out a prepaid phone, dialed from memory, then smashed the SIM the moment a woman's voice answered.
Mia, we need a lift. Same protocol as Sarajevo. Got it. You've got one move left. Make it count.
They didn't wait. They moved through back streets, weaving through bus shelters and shuttered shops. Drones buzzed overhead, silent except for the faint whine of rotors. Each shadow could be a lens, each lens a hunter. By the time they reached the pickup point, an abandoned bus depot, Ethan felt the weight of the machine's drive against his chest like a second heart.
Fast.
The van smelled of diesel and metal. Mia, hair cropped short, tattoos vanishing into her collar, didn't waste words. She drove like every turn was a battlefield.
You've pissed off half the planet. That clip wasn't history. That was now. They'll call it treason, espionage, whatever they need. You'll be hunted until you're either dead or irrelevant. I don't want to be famous. I want people to see. Then keep showing. But you can't just drop bombs and run. You need strategy, mirrors, safe houses, networks that don't crack.
The fallout deepened. In Berlin, students clashed with riot police, chanting Ethan's name. In Washington, senators demanded hearings. In Moscow, state TV blamed Western provocateurs. In Beijing, censors scrubbed Ethan from the web, but clips survived, coded into memes, hidden in music videos, embedded in cat gifs. Interpol posted a red notice with Ethan's face. Wanted for cyber terrorism. The reward, $1 million.
They've just put a bounty on you. Congratulations, you're officially a villain. Villains don't tell the truth, they bury it.
Mia parked the van in a warehouse that smelled of rust and damp. Screens glowed against the darkness, her command center, a patchwork of stolen bandwidth, jury-rigged towers, and satellite feeds.
You've got one shot left before they shut you down completely. Pick your target carefully. Something undeniable. Something so big it makes the Swiss Wing look like foreplay.
Ethan rested his hands on the console, pulse thudding. On the drive were hours of footage he hadn't dared process. Wars planned over cigars, CEOs laughing about starving markets, presidents rehearsing empathy in mirrors.
Then we don't stop. Not with one clip. We keep going. Contradiction after contradiction until people can't look away. You'll burn the world down, or I'll burn the lies out of it.
Outside, thunder rolled across the North Sea, drowning the sound of drones circling above the city. Inside, Ethan stared at the files, each one a fuse, each one a reckoning. The truth had made him a fugitive, but it had also made him unstoppable. Tomorrow, he would choose the next clip. And tomorrow, the world would choose whether to believe or to turn away. Chapter 5, The Shape of a Lie. By the time they finished cataloging the footage in Mia's warehouse, the nights were shorter and the city had become a gallery of lights and scanning eyes. Each file was a shard, a fragment of a history that, when fitted together, became a mosaic no one had asked to see. Some shards were small, some were glass that cut. Ethan's hands trembled as he opened the next dossier. He had prepared himself for gore, for bureaucratic indecency. He had not prepared for the way a taped meeting could feel like a betrayal. The file was labeled benignly, NYC 2001 A prelim.mo.
This one's dangerous, he said. If it's real, it reorders a lot of things. Then don't second guess it. We verify, we timestamp, we put it out with the truth attached, not our spin.
The footage began in the hush of an unremarkable conference room 13 months before September 2001. Men in business suits argued in low voices about security priorities and an opportunity to reset foreign policy. One slide briefly flashed showed a map with supply routes and proxy influence shaded in. Another man's voice, unmistakable to those who knew, said, "A shock will realign public appetite for intervention." He laughed, the kind of small, private laugh reserved for men who assume consequence can be outsourced. Ethan did not add captions. He did not assemble a montage. He published the raw loop with a short accompanying dossier, transcripts, verified travel logs from archival sources, voice frequency analysis by a neutral university lab Marcus trusted, metadata showing the camera's origin. He let the room speak.
People will call it monstrous, Lily said. They'll say it's manufactured to inflame. They'll say it's an attack on mourning. They'll say anything to avoid the question the footage asks: who decided the world needed to be scared?
The reaction was immediate and volcanic. Families of the lost in 2001 condemned the footage as an affront. A cascade of op-eds accused Ethan of profiting from grief. Websites that had mirrored the Swiss clip hesitated, then split into factions. Share anyway, and this could be a trap. News anchors, their faces trained to manage shock, spoke of duty to verify. Politicians raged on talk shows. Some embraced the footage as overdue accountability. Others called for arrests and censorship. Cable news ran the loop with a dozen commentators offering a dozen possible motives. Social media fractured into argument spheres, and everywhere Ethan's name was hammered into contextless outrage. Ethan watched as entire communities turned toward hate like it was a religion. He felt the weight of the family's anger as acutely as if it had landed on his shoulders. The machine had given him sight. It had not given him absolution.
Damage control, Marcus said. We need a playbook. Right now, it's not enough to post. We need witnesses, experts, forensic validation that can't be dismissed as synth. I've got one, Mia replied. A forensic audio lab in Toronto that owes me a favor. They'll run voice signatures and release a peer-reviewed report. We can annotate the video with links, provide the raw files for independent checks. No narrator, no music, just evidence.
They set to work with a clean fury. Hours passed in a blur of hashed uploads, salted torrents, defensive encryption. They seeded copies to university servers, to small newsrooms that prized reputation over clicks. Marcus reached out to an old colleague now teaching ethics in journalism, who agreed to host a moderated panel streamed live to evaluate the footage. Ethan slept for 2 hours that day and woke with gravel in his mouth. The personal costs came fast. A neighbor's sister, retweeted by a prominent conservative commentator, accused Lily of being an accomplice to treason. Her mother received a parcel with a single printed page. "We know where your son hides." The note had no signature.
They know our city, Lily said, fingers white around a mug. They watch for patterns. They know what a fugitive looks like.
I never thought making the truth visible would feel so ugly.
For the first time since the lab, doubt threaded Ethan's conscience. He had imagined revelation would lead to reform. He had not imagined it would swell into a maelstrom that sucked up the innocent along with the guilty. He began seeing things differently, not just as exposures, but as consequences, cascading, brutal, messy.
You don't get to back away now, Lily said one night, voice blunt in the dark. We know, we saw, if we stop, someone else will pick the same footage up and edit it into porn or propaganda. We're the only ones being careful. Being careful didn't stop their grief from being weaponized against us.
She put her hand on his arm like a small anchor. Then be more careful, not less brave. They changed tactics. Instead of stream and flee, they began a pattern Marcus termed controlled revelation. Short, verifiable releases accompanied by peer review, expert panels, and public Q&A. They began to push the clips not as end products but as raw evidence for institutions capable of prosecuting or reforming. They no longer wanted viral noise, they wanted institutional action.
Assange posted everything like a shotgun, Marcus said. You need the scalpel.
The strategy had immediate benefits. A respected academic journal issued a careful statement about the newly shared files and called for investigations. A small European court opened a file. Suddenly, the movement had a legal vector. But bureaucracy moves like a glacier, and retribution moves like fire. The more they worked within institutions, the more those institutions recoiled under pressure from state power. Legal letters arrived at the queues Marcus had sewn in. Servers were subpoenaed, shut down, servers that had hosted hours of carefully sourced footage.
They can erase servers, Ethan said, but they can't unsee that room in Switzerland. They can't unhear that voice. The archives are splintering, but the fragments exist.
Ethan learned then that truth's victory was never immediate. It was patient, cumulative. It did not always feel like justice. Sometimes it felt like a wound that needed careful dressing.
Then we keep dressing it, Lily said. We do not let it rot.
Their next move, then, would not be a headline grab. It would be the slow work of building a case, isotope by isotope, timestamp by timestamp, until the pattern of lies could be indicted in courts and history books. The world had seen the Swiss wing. Now they would need to show the hand that wrote the script. Chapter 6, Smear and Snare. The headlines changed tone within days. Where once there had been shocked anchors and urgent debates, now there were polished segments with graphics and rehearsed sneers. Ethan's face, pulled from his university ID, became a symbol of radical misinformation. Clips of him laughing with Lily at a graduation ceremony were spliced with footage of riots in Berlin, as if joy itself were guilt. A documentary aired on a major network titled The Future Justice Hoax, Anatomy of a Conspiracy. It claimed Ethan had doctored the Swiss wing footage using AI tools, that his voice had been tracked in extremist chat rooms, that his accounts were linked to a shadowy foreign sponsor.
They're rewriting you, Lily spat, tossing a newspaper aside. They're building a character who never existed. That's the trick, Ethan said. They don't need to erase me. They just need to drown me in other versions of me.
In the warehouse, Mia worked the terminals with a kind of religious concentration. Packets of data bounced between servers across 4 continents, proxies masking proxies. But even she looked pale when the feeds showed infiltration attempts climbing by the hour.
They've spun up a task force. You're seeing state-level persistence. If they breach even one mirror, they'll poison the archive, seed fake clips that discredit the real ones. Classic counterintelligence, Marcus said. They can't kill the truth, so they salt it with lies until no one knows which is which.
It came to a head when an upload Ethan never scheduled appeared on the site, a crudely faked video suggesting aliens at Roswell, complete with glowing saucers and melodramatic narration. Within minutes, blue-check pundits mocked future justice as just another conspiracy mill.
That wasn't me. That wasn't even on the drive. They're inside. They're not inside, Mia barked. They're upstream. They've hijacked a CDN node to inject content before it reaches the mirrors. It's not a breach, it's a framing.
The effect was immediate. Downloads dropped. Journalists who had been cautiously supportive went silent. Hashtags turned mocking. Future fiction trended. Ethan felt the world tilting against him, not by bullet or boot, but by meme.
They've broken the signal. Even if we post the cleanest footage in history, they've infected the brand. Then you need a witness, Marcus snapped. A flesh and blood person who will stake their reputation to the footage. Someone untouchable. A journalist too old to silence, too respected to smear. And where do we find one of those? You don't find them, they find you, and one already has.
That night, a message came through the darknet inbox. A simple line, "I know the truth's sound, meet me in Prague." It was signed with a name Marcus hadn't heard in 15 years, Elena Kovacs, once a star correspondent, now living in semi-retirement after being blacklisted for exposing Balkan war crimes.
She's the real thing. If she puts her face to the footage, half the world listens again, and the other half paints a target on her back.
2 days later, under forged passports and exhaustion, Ethan, Lily, Marcus, and Mia stepped off a night bus in Prague. The city lights shimmered on wet cobblestones, history breathing through every stone arch. It felt both ancient and conspiratorial, the right stage for a dangerous ally.
What if she's compromised? Then we run again, and keep running until we can't.
Elena Kovacs waited in a cafe lit by yellow lamps, her hair silver now, her eyes still the sharp gray of a hawk. She closed the newspaper she'd been pretending to read and gave Ethan a long look that felt like judgment and recognition.
"You've lit the match," she said. "Now let's see if we can burn the right house."
Outside, a black car idled at the curb, its driver smoking without ever looking at the cafe. Inside, 4 fugitives and 1 veteran of truth sat together, knowing the snare was closing even as they planned their next strike. Chapter 7. The Prague Gambit. Prague was a city of contradictions. Cobbled alleys where revolution once brewed, glass towers where new empires traded stock, and backrooms where secrets whispered louder than church bells. For Ethan, every step through its streets felt like walking inside a metaphor. Truth and lies, old and new, interlocked like the stones beneath his feet. In the cafe's upstairs room, Elena Kovacs laid out her terms. No theatrics, no anonymous posts. If they wanted the world to believe, it had to come through her. Her name, her reputation, her face.
"Future justice is a phantom," she said. "But Elena Kovacs is flesh and blood. They tried to silence me once. They will try again. But if I stand behind your footage, they cannot dismiss it as mere pixels. And when they come for you, they will. That is the cost. But I'd rather die visible than live erased."
For 2 days, they worked in a rented flat above a bookshop in Zhizkov. Mia hardened the connections, onion layers, off-grid relays, mirrored nodes in forgotten corners of the internet. Marcus polished a dossier that linked each clip with independent corroboration. Ethan reviewed the footage until his eyes burned, hunting for any anomaly that could be twisted against them. The chosen video was not the Swiss wing. That storm had already broken. This one was quieter but sharper. A European defense summit in 2015 where ministers rehearsed lines about Russian aggression while a leaked sidebar conversation revealed private deals to keep arms contracts alive. It wasn't sensational. It was worse. It was ordinary men selling ordinary lies for ordinary profit. The kind of corruption that killed slowly but surely.
"This isn't flashy," Lily said, watching the muted footage. "That's why it matters. Truth isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's paperwork. Sometimes it's boredom. That's harder to deny." "He's right," Marcus agreed. "Conspiracies don't look like thrillers. They look like men in suits mumbling over coffee."
Elena recorded her statement, a single take, no script.
"My name is Elena Kovacs. I have spent my life chasing lies dressed as truth. This footage is not fake. I have verified its origin with my own eyes and my own expertise. If you doubt me in court, not on television."
When she was done, the room was silent. Even the city seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. They prepared the release for midnight. But as the files seeded, Mia's console lit up with red alerts.
"Traffic spike. Not organic. Someone's triangulating. They've found the node." "How long? Minutes, maybe. Less if they've got boots on the ground."
Marcus killed the lights. Lily gathered the drives. Elena calmly slipped her passport into her coat, as if she had always expected this moment. They bolted down the back stairwell into a rain-slicked alley. At the corner, headlights flared. A black SUV rolled slow, too deliberate. Ethan's gut clenched.
"Back!"
They sprinted through narrow lanes, feet slapping cobblestones, the old city echoing with sirens and shouts. The SUV gave chase, its tires screeching on wet stone. They ducked into a courtyard where a wrought iron gate offered no escape. For a second, it felt over. But Elena, calm as steel, pulled a small key from her coat and unlocked a servant's passage she'd mapped decades earlier when she'd reported on dissidents in the same district.
"History repeats," she murmured, "sometimes in our favor."
They slipped through, the gate clanging shut, just as the SUV turned into the courtyard. The driver's curse echoed in the night. An hour later, huddled in a tram tunnel, Mia confirmed the release had gone through. Elena's statement was live. The footage was mirrored across a dozen reputable outlets.
"They can't kill it now. It's everywhere. They'll try to kill us instead. Then let them try. The footage will outlive us. That is the bargain."
Above ground, Prague carried on. Trams rattling, tourists laughing, churches tolling the hour. But beneath the ordinary rhythm, the fuse they had lit burned brighter. Governments scrambled, markets trembled, and Ethan understood something chilling. They were no longer fugitives with files. They were insurgents against reality itself. Chapter 8, Fractures. For 3 days, the footage from Prague rippled outward. Elena's statement made the difference. Journalists debated instead of dismissed. Academics scrutinized instead of sneered. For once, future justice wasn't just noise in the algorithm. It was oxygen in the discourse. But oxygen feeds fire, and fire spreads. Mia noticed first. Their safehouse Wi-Fi, hardened, cloaked, split across 3 relays, began receiving connection requests from an origin she didn't recognize. Not government IP ranges, not bots, human fingers on a keyboard, someone inside the circle.
This isn't random. Someone's feeding them coordinates. Who? Lily demanded. It can't be. Me? Marcus snapped. Too fast, too sharp. That's what you're thinking.
The room froze. Ethan looked at Marcus, the veteran who'd guided them, who had saved them more than once. But he also remembered the shadows under his eyes, the late-night phone calls, the absences he couldn't explain.
You were the only one who knew both the cafe exit and this address. The SUV turned up too fast to be chance. You think I'm a traitor? After all I've lost? After watching your father die for stories like these?
The name hit like a slap. Ethan's breath caught. His father, Robert MacGregor, had always been the unspoken link between him and Marcus.
What do you mean watching him die?
Marcus hesitated too long. That was the answer itself. His voice, when it came, was gravel rubbed against guilt.
I was there. I was his source. He had the files on the rendition flights. I begged him not to drive that night, but he wouldn't listen. And when the crash came, I ran. I thought if I stayed, they'd pin it on me. I left him to the flames.
The words hung in the damp air of the safe house. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. Rage and grief tangled like barbed wire.
You left him, and now you've left us wide open. Anger won't change what's done. The question is whether he's feeding them now.
As if summoned by the accusation, the front shutters rattled. Heavy footsteps, the metallic clack of rifles being shouldered. Voices barked orders in Czech and English.
Compromised, Mia hissed, slamming her laptop shut. We're burned. Back exit!
They bolted through the kitchen, ducking as glass shattered. Bullets punched holes in the wall where their heads had been seconds before. Ethan grabbed Lily's hand, yanking her down a flight of stairs into a cellar. Marcus stumbled behind them, muttering curses that sounded half like prayers. The cellar was a trap. One door, one window barred with rust. But Elena, calm as if she had rehearsed this, produced a crowbar from beneath a crate and jammed it under the frame. With a grunt, the old metal bent, snapping just enough to squeeze through. They spilled into a service tunnel that smelled of mildew and history.
Why did they hit now? Ethan panted. Because someone told them when you'd be vulnerable. Someone with access to your schedule.
All eyes swung to Marcus.
I didn't. I swear it. You think I want their boots on my throat too? I've been running longer than you've been alive. Do we keep him? For now. But the moment I smell betrayal again, I cut him loose.
Hours later, safe in a derelict tram station on the city's edge, they regrouped. Mia patched the laptops into stolen power lines. Elena wrapped a blanket around Lily's shoulders. Ethan stared at Marcus, searching for a truth that might never come.
Trust is a currency we don't have anymore. From now on, we compartmentalize. No one sees the whole plan but me and Lily. That way, if we're betrayed, it won't be fatal. Good, you're learning. Truth is fragile. Protect it even from your friends.
The betrayal, real or imagined, had cracked their circle. But even broken, they were still dangerous. And as Ethan scrolled through the next unopened file, he knew the footage inside might be the most dangerous yet. The label was innocuous, UKR Conf Call 2014.mauve. The date matched the year of the Swiss Wing meeting. He felt the world tilt again. Whatever was inside, it wasn't just history. It was the fuse for the war raging even now. Chapter 9, Manufactured War. The tram station was silent, but for the hum of stolen electricity and the rain dripping through cracked tiles. Ethan stared at the drive, the cursor blinking over a file with a name too bland to mean anything. UKR Conf Call 2014.mauve. Yet the date alone made his chest tighten. It aligned with the Swiss Wing meeting, the night Putin, Xi, Trump, and the billionaires had spoken of carving the world into zones. If this file was what he suspected, it would not just confirm the conspiracy, it would map its consequences.
Play it.
He clicked. The feed opened to a conference room. A phone on speaker, 4 voices, tinny but clear.
The unrest is useful. Push it harder. Flood their channels with talk of neo-Nazis and coups. NATO will hesitate. Our influence campaigns will amplify. We will test the new algorithms. Westerners will argue among themselves instead of preparing. Good. The weaker NATO looks, the stronger I look. Keep the heat on Ukraine. Europe will break apart trying to fix it. We'll handle the streams. Trending hashtags, divisive content. We can scale outrage faster than any truth. The system is blind. It rewards only engagement.
There was laughter, then silence. The call ended. Ethan's hands were slick with sweat. Lily pressed hers over her mouth. The echo of their words filled the room even after the audio cut.
They didn't just predict the war, they lit it, step by step, and the tech made it possible. They agreed to chaos, to death, like it was strategy, and we've all been living inside that call ever since. Release it now, Marcus said. No dossier, no delay. If you sit on this, they'll find us before you move it.
Ethan didn't argue. He scrubbed the file for metadata corruption, hashed it, seeded it into 3 mirrors, then set the master upload live. The caption read only, Conference Call 2014, Authentic, Decide for Yourself. The world ignited. In Kyiv, crowds flooded Independence Square, holding screens aloft that replayed the clip on loop. Tears and fury mixed in chants, not our war, their war. In Brussels, EU leaders convened an emergency session, their faces pale as footage of their own complicity played on social media walls outside the building. In Washington, a senator called it the most damning leak in modern history, while another dismissed it as weaponized fiction. In Beijing, censors banned the video within minutes, but copies spread through gaming servers, coded into live stream chats, impossible to contain. Ethan sat watching the numbers climb. Downloads, reposts, translations in a dozen languages, but instead of triumph, he felt only dread.
We just told the world its wars are scripted. Good. Now they'll know what they're bleeding for. Truth has teeth, Ethan. You cannot expect it not to bite.
Within hours, the counterattack came. State outlets blasted headlines calling the audio AI forgery. Tech billionaires appeared on live streams, smug and rehearsed, dismissing the clip as synthetic trash. Then came the digital assault, DDoS storms battering their mirrors, injection attempts, infiltration probes. Mia cursed under her breath, fingers flying.
They're throwing the full stack at us. Nation-state level, no question. If one mirror drops, the rest could cascade. That's not just cleanup, that's panic, Marcus said, which means you hit the nerve.
But the attack wasn't just digital. Lily's phone, long dark, stripped of SIM, buzzed once. A message blinked on screen, a photo of her mother outside her flat in Edinburgh. Caption, "You can stop this." Her hands shook as she showed Ethan.
They're going after family now. Then we keep moving, faster, harder, no pauses.
They packed within minutes, abandoning the tram station. Outside, Prague's rain had stopped, but the air was thick, electric. Somewhere above, drones circled. Somewhere below, servers carried their revelation across the globe. The Ukraine file was out. The war they had been living through was now exposed as engineered. But Ethan knew exposure was not victory. It was only escalation. And now, he and Lily were not just fugitives. They were the most hunted witnesses on Earth. Chapter 10, the final broadcast. The city had become a net. Prague was no longer streets and squares. It was checkpoints, cameras, unmarked vans idling at curbs. For every alley they escaped, 3 more closed behind them. The Ukraine file had detonated, and the hunters were done playing subtle. They pushed east, guided by Elena's fading contacts, until the trams thinned and the streets turned industrial. A derelict TV relay tower rose against the sky, rusted, humming faintly, a relic of the Cold War.
Signal's dirty, but strong. If you want to go live without filters, this is your chance. Or your funeral.
Inside the tower's control room, dust-coated consoles that hadn't been touched in years. Ethan's hands shook as he wired the machine into the old broadcast feed. Lily set up the camera, her face pale but determined. Elena stood at the window, watching for headlights.
They'll cut the sight, they'll flood the mirrors, but they can't stop a live relay. Then do it. The world deserves to see you, not just your files.
Ethan pressed the switch. The screen blinked, then the feed went live. Across pirated satellite bands, radio back channels, hijacked cable frequencies. For the first time, future justice was not anonymous. It was a face.
My name is Ethan MacGregor. You've heard my work called fake, fabricated, dangerous. You've heard me called a terrorist. I am none of those things. I am a witness, and so are you. He leaned forward, voice steady despite the tremor in his chest. You've seen the Swiss wing. You've heard the Ukraine call. You know wars were scripted, divisions manufactured, truths buried. You know your leaders laughed while they plotted your suffering. I am not asking you to trust me. I am asking you to trust your own eyes.
Behind him, Lily cued the raw files. JFK, Diana, 9/11, the Defense Summit, the Ukraine call, each one stitched with timestamps, hashes, forensic confirmations. They played in sequence, evidence piling like stones on a grave.
They'll be here any second. They've already triangulated. We've got minutes, not hours.
Headlights cut across the tower's cracked windows. Engines idled outside. Boots hit gravel. Radios crackled with terse commands. Ethan ignored it. He stared into the lens as if it were the world's eyes.
Every time they tell you this is fake, remember, they are the ones who benefit from disbelief. Truth doesn't need you to believe. It only needs you to look.
The door below splintered. Shouts echoed up the stairwell. Marcus pulled a pistol from his coat, a weapon Ethan hadn't known he carried, and aimed it at the entrance.
Keep talking. I'll buy you 30 seconds.
Don't waste it.
Gunfire cracked. Boots thundered. The broadcast wavered as signals jammed and fought. Ethan shouted into the storm.
You can kill me. You can smear me. But you cannot unmake the truth. The truth is out now, and it belongs to all of you.
The feed cut to static. The final image burned across millions of screens worldwide. Ethan's face, rain-slick, eyes blazing, framed by a tower ready to fall. Then silence. Across the globe, the broadcast seeded itself into servers before the lines went dead. People replayed it on phones, mirrors, torrents. Governments scrambled to erase, deny, explain. Protesters flooded capitals from Warsaw to Washington. Hashtags turned into marches. Nobody knew if Ethan MacGregor was alive. Nobody could prove he wasn't. And in that ambiguity lay his power, because future justice was no longer a man in hiding. It was an idea, and ideas cannot be arrested. Epilogue, The Sound of Truth. Weeks passed. The tower raid in Prague became rumor, then headline, then legend. Official statements insisted Ethan MacGregor was dead, killed resisting arrest in a terrorist stronghold. No body was shown, no photos leaked, just words, rehearsed and hollow. But the footage lived. In Washington, protesters pitched tents outside the Capitol, waving signs that read, "We saw the call." In Moscow, police beat back marchers, chanting Ethan's name. In Beijing, QR codes stenciled on alley walls linked to the Ukraine file, uncensorable by firewalls. In Edinburgh, someone painted across the university gates, "History without lies." The government screamed deepfake until the word lost meaning. The people whispered, "Future justice," until it became a movement. Lily never said whether she had seen Ethan fall in that tower. When asked, she only smiled, tired, fierce, unbroken. "He isn't gone," she told a sympathetic journalist once. "He's everywhere you replay him." Marcus disappeared again, maybe in guilt, maybe in sacrifice. Elena published a book titled The Witness Age. Mia's encrypted networks multiplied like seeds on the wind. No one knew if Ethan MacGregor was alive. But every time another clip surfaced, every time another lie cracked under the weight of proof, the world remembered the man who had stared into a camera and said,
You cannot unmake the truth.
and somewhere, in the hum of servers and the glow of screens, the sound of truth kept playing.
End of Future Justice. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, ring the bell, and tell your friends about my listening library.